Coming up on this Tuesday edition of Newsline at noon, in response to a police raid on one of Korea's two major union groups, a second group severs communication with the government and management, demanding the government apologise for the raid and take disciplinary action against those responsible. South Korea's spy agency chief says the recent execution of the North Korean leader's uncle was a likely result of conflict among state agencies surrounding Jang Song-thaek's involvement in the regime's lucrative business projects. Plus, the UN Security Council will vote on a resolution to send additional peacekeeping troops to South Sudan on Tuesday amid growing concerns about the potential for a civil war in the African country. These stories and more on Newsline at noon.
Thanks for joining us. You're watching Newsline at noon. I'm Choi Yusan in Seoul.
Very good to have you with us on this Christmas Eve. I'm Mark Broom. The nation's labour union groups are on a collision course with the government after the government dispatched hundreds of riot police to arrest key members of the striking railway union on Sunday.
Our Kim Hyun-ji starts us off.
The Federation of Korean Trade Unions, the nation's largest and oldest trade union umbrella group, says it will participate in a mass protest rally by striking railway workers, set for this Saturday, December 28th, in a show of support for the Korean Railway Workers Union and the Korean Confederation of Trade Unions. Explaining its decision to Arirang TV Tuesday, the FKTU said it was appalled by the government's use of force Sunday, when police raided the main office of the Korean Confederation of Trade Unions to arrest key union leaders of the state-run rail operator, Korail. The Korean Confederation of Trade Unions is the second largest trade union center and is considered to be more militant. The FKTU said such plunder of a major labor union federation by the authorities was unprecedented. Korail has been striking for more than 2 weeks in protest of the government's decision to create a subsidiary for a new high-speed KTX train service, saying the move is the first step toward privatization. The government says the strike is illegal, and it dispatched hundreds of riot police to the KCTU headquarters, taking into custody more than 130 railway union workers. The FKTU is demanding the government apologize for the raid and take disciplinary action against those responsible for the decision to use force. Until its demands are met, the largest labor union says it will refuse to talk to the government. In an emergency meeting of union member representatives Monday, the FKTU decided to drop out of the Tripartite Commission of Labor, Management and Government. The decision severs the official channel of dialogue between the nation's labor unions and the government, as the FKTU was the sole group representing labor in the Tripartite Commission, which was launched in 1998. Korail's decision to hire around 500 new workers to replace the striking railway workers has also upset the labor groups. In a cabinet meeting Tuesday, Prime Minister Chung Won called on the striking railway workers to return to work, saying the government has already given its word not to privatize Korail. Kim Hyun-ji, Arirang News.
South Korea's spy agency says the North Korean leader's uncle Jang Song-thaek was executed not because of an internal power struggle, but due to disputes over lucrative business projects. The agency also forecasts that North Korea is highly likely to carry out a provocation early next year. Our Han Da-eun reports.
The fall of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's uncle Jang Song-thaek may not have been due to a power struggle like many had speculated. Chief of Seoul's National Intelligence Service Nam Jae-jun, while briefing the National Assembly's Intelligence Committee, said Jang apparently overstepped his bounds by getting involved in big business projects and that this was the main reason he was executed. The NI's chief explained Jang interfered in Pyongyang's most lucrative projects, mostly coal-related ones, sparking conflicts with the state's other financial agencies. Kim Jong-un ordered him to settle the disputes, but when Chang defied that order, he was executed for going against Kim's supreme leadership. As for Chang's wife and Kim Jong-un's aunt, Kim Kyung-hee, the intelligence chief said, unlike many had thought, she has no health problems, but is rather staying out of the public eye for the moment. Nam also warned of a possible provocation by the North early next year, sometime between January and March, pointing out that North Korea's artillery units are being reinforced and more military exercises are being held. Nam said Pyongyang could forge ahead with provocations targeting the South in order to shift people's attention away from the instability domestically. Nam added the reclusive state is ready to conduct a fourth nuclear test at any time. Meanwhile, the NIS chief denied all reports that some of Chang's close aides are seeking asylum in China, saying there was no truth to any of them. Handan, Arirang News.
Senior Foreign and Defense Ministry officials of South Korea and China have exchanged views on the state of affairs surrounding the Korean peninsula after North Korea's dramatic execution of the leader's uncle. During their first security dialogue in Beijing Monday, the two sides agreed to boost communication and cooperation, reaffirming that peace on the Korean peninsula was their shared goal. The two nations also agreed to work towards denuclearizing North Korea. Seoul pointed out factors that intensify tensions in Northeast Asia, including China's new air defense zone and its territorial disputes with Japan.
Korean stocks underperformed in 2013 compared to most other developed countries, only ranking 30th on a list of OECD member nations. While the Korean market was considered one of the most popular safe havens in Asia just a few months ago, the Korea Center for International Finance said on Tuesday that, as of last Friday, the benchmark Kospi was down 0.7% for the year. Korea was among a group of only 5 countries that have seen their main stock markets drop this year. The rest of the OECD saw an increase this year. Japan's Nikkei topped the list, rising over 52%. The International Finance Center says the weakened yen, as well as the US Federal Reserve's stimulus tapering, have had a negative impact on Korea's investment sentiment. Korea laid out an ambitious roadmap to mold itself into Northeast Asia's financial hub back in 2003. Now, fast forward 10 years, Seoul's financial industry still lags far behind many of its Asian neighbors. So what's brought Korea to this point, and where does the nation's financial industry headed now? Yulian reports.
While Korea is home to manufacturing giants like Samsung, Hyundai, and LG, Korea's financial sector had lagged far behind, despite government efforts to make Seoul a Northeast Asian financial capital on par with Hong Kong and Singapore. The Seoul International Finance Center was built with an aim to attract multinational financial companies. But after a year since its opening, Seoul's tallest and glossiest buildings now stand as a stark symbol of the country's failure to become a financial capital. The center, located in the heart of a bustling financial district in Yeouido, was a $1.4 billion project. But today, only one of the 3 buildings is fully occupied. The second building is at about half capacity, and the third completely empty.
Simply put, Korea is not an attractive place to invest. The market is small and the competition among domestic financial companies is already so fierce that there's not much profit to gain from Korea.
Given the low prospect for growth, foreign banks in Korea have little incentive to try and expand. In the past 10 years, the number of branches and offices of foreign financial companies has shrunk from 79 to 62, a 20% drop. This called for a change of direction. Instead of making Seoul a financial hub, taking domestic financial firms overseas to compete in the global market. This, according to a blueprint unveiled by the Financial Services Commission last month. Experts say it's a belated but welcome move.
Korean financial companies have no choice but to go abroad, given that the domestic market is saturated. It's important that these companies realize that they need to set out long-term goals.
The key, he added, is to break away from their tendency to seek short-term profits and to commit to improving their overseas operations over the next 10 to 20 years. Yuri-an, Arirang News.
Hyundai Motor and its affiliate Kia Motors have agreed to settle lawsuits by paying $395 million to American customers who feel they were misled by the automaker's fuel economy claims. The automakers say customers with affected models sold from 2011 to 2013 can now either choose between a lump sum payment or lifetime reimbursement. Hyundai says it expects to pay lump sum payments of up to $210 million and Kia up to $185 million. The auto group acknowledged it overstated its fuel economy claims in November of last year after the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency pointed out the inflated numbers in 13 Hyundai and Kia models. A growing number of people here in Korea are opting to buy diesel cars because of their greater fuel efficiency. And as our Kim Min-ji tells us, the movement toward diesel is intensifying the competition between foreign and domestic car makers.
Kim Jong-hyun recently bought a new car. After comparing models powered by diesel fuel and those powered by gasoline, he settled on the diesel model. Although the car cost him roughly $1,900 more than the one powered by gasoline would have, he concluded that the diesel car would be more economical in the long run, considering its high fuel efficiency rating.
At first, I was worried about the quality of the driving experience, but now it's much better. At high speeds, it isn't much different than a gasoline car.
In Korea, the diesel car market is gaining ground, and foreign automakers have also seen sales of their diesel models rise. 8 of the top 10 imported cars in Korea are diesel cars, and more than 60% of all imported cars purchased in Korea are diesel. In the first 3 quarters of this year, sales of diesel cars jumped 90%, while sales of cars powered by gasoline and liquefied petroleum gas have been on a gradual decline. The surge is thanks to the relatively lower maintenance costs and because diesel cars can deliver up to 30% better fuel efficiency than similar performing gasoline-powered cars can. That's good news for local car makers like Kia Motors, which says its new K3 diesel model has been met with a largely positive response from prospective buyers.
When you compare our diesel car to a comparable foreign model, there is an initial price difference of about $7,500. Despite the slightly lower fuel efficiency of the K3, it is more economical if you consider the entire cost of carry.
The growth of the diesel market has ramped up the already fierce competition between domestic and imported car makers. With current market trends set to continue, Hyundai Motor and Kia Motors, the nation's 2 largest automakers, have said they will start producing diesel cars of all sizes, which will likely intensify the ongoing competition. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Disposing of old home appliances has always been a headache, but a newly developed recycling method is catching on, especially since you can turn trash into cash. Our Son Jung-in reports.
Most of the discarded home appliances can be recycled, but the hard part is classifying them into the right category. But now, thanks to a new technology, recycling promises a better and more efficient outcome. This is an EWaste collector developed by local researchers that can sort out plastic into 3 different types and separate metals into aluminum, copper, and stainless steel.
The machine sorts out the waste by using near-infrared rays and analyzing the wavelength reflected on the plastic. As for the metals, it separates them by distinguishing their differences in color.
Valuable waste resources that have in the past been difficult to categorize are now expected to show a recycle rate of up to 95% from the current 85%. Experts believe it will kill 3 birds with 1 stone, saving the environment, making money, and creating new jobs in the industry. This method can also be applied to scrapped cars and other wastes from many different business facilities.
The most promising part is to be able to contribute to the economic development in the country by securing a more superior technology than other developed countries.
Experts estimate this new technology will bring about an economic effect worth some $114 million annually by reducing processing times and raising the value of waste materials. 손정인, Arirang News.
For your fill of Korean and international news. Join Chae Yu-sun and Mark Broom every weekday at lunchtime. NEWSLINE at noon.
Plenary session this Wednesday and vote on the government restructuring bills.
All foreigners are being warned to leave South Sudan as violence between rebel forces and the government spreads. With reports of hundreds of people killed in fighting between rival factions and over 40,000 forced to evacuate, the UN is set to deploy more peacekeepers to the area. Shin Se-min reports.
The violence is escalating between rebel forces led by Vice President Riek Machar and the South Sudan government. The rebels have taken over major towns in the oil-producing region, while the international community is on standby for what could be the first civil war in the world's newest country. The conflict started a week ago when South Sudan's President Salva Kiir said forces loyal to Machar attempted to launch a coup, triggering ethnic clashes last week that have so far left hundreds dead. The UN says some 45,000 civilians are currently seeking protection at UN bases in South Sudan. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has asked the UN Security Council to add to the 7,000-strong force in South Sudan amid de-escalating violence there. Reports say the 15-member council is likely to adopt a resolution approving about 5,000 more troops and police for the UN peacekeeping mission.
The United Nations will investigate reports of grave human rights violations and crimes against humanity.
U.S. citizens and foreigners from other countries were evacuated from the rebel-controlled town of Bor to the capital city of Juba over the weekend, and on Monday, the United States moved 150 Marines into the unstable state for further evacuations. Meanwhile, a Korean peacekeeping force is set to receive additional ammunition from Japan to enhance its defense capability following a Korean government's request to the UN. The unit of 280 engineers and medics is currently providing protections to thousands of refugees in addition to its work with the UN mission there. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Syria has been receiving a substantial amount of crude oil from Iraq through an under-the-radar trade that has kept its military running. This according to a Reuters report based on previously undisclosed documents about Syrian oil purchases. Reuters concluded that millions of barrels of crude oil that were delivered to Syria on Iranian ships actually come from Iraq. The firms in Iraq that are involved deny the claims, but the documents compiled by Reuters show the firms have been demanding a large premium over the regular price to compensate for the level of risk involved. Since the companies are outside of the US and Europe, which have imposed sanctions against Syria, there are no restrictions on doing business with Syria. They do, however, face the risk of being blacklisted by Western powers.
Let's now turn to Reuters for a look at more stories making headlines around the world.
With rockets flying across the sky, Syria's civil war rages on. New amateur video appears to show rebels launching a strike on Aleppo's airport. The rebels are identified in the video by this man, who says they are part of the Islamic Front's Al-Tawhid Brigade. Reuters cannot independently verify the video, which was posted on a social media website. Other video appears to show the aftermath of an airstrike that hit a school. Men can be seen digging through the rubble looking for children buried in the blast. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says at least 42 people, including many children, were killed. The war has killed more than 100,000 people and displaced millions.
Winter brings snow and high winds to North America. Icy rain across much of Canada turned roads and pavements into skating rinks. Here in the Canadian city of Toronto, ice storms knocked out power to thousands of homes and businesses, and an estimated 350,000 customers are without electricity in eastern Canada. Media reports say power could be out until December the 25th, leaving Canadians out in the cold. In the US, heavy rainfall, ice storms and tornadoes have caused flight delays and unsafe road conditions, wreaking havoc on Christmas travel plans. Tornado watches were issued for Tennessee, Arkansas and here in Louisiana, where powerful winds swept through the southern states, scattering debris in their wake. In Monroe, the facade of this bookstore was ripped away.
We heard something falling, and then we saw the letters falling, and then we saw the sides of the wall falling, and then I saw their transformer over there blew up and flashed everywhere. The glass started shattering.
In the US alone, more than 700 flights have been cancelled and more than 11,000 delayed.
2 members of the Russian punk band Pussy Riot have been freed from prison. President Vladimir Putin pardoned the women as part of a wider amnesty, but they say their release is a PR stunt ahead of the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi. One of the women, Nadezhda Tolokonikova, said Western countries should boycott the games and not give in due to oil and gas deliveries from Russia. The amnesty law signed by the Russian parliament last week covers at least 20,000 prisoners, including youngsters, disabled people, and pregnant women. The 2 band members were included as mothers. Tolokonikova was jailed alongside her fellow band members in August of 2012 after they were convicted of hooliganism for performing a crude punk prayer in a cathedral against President Putin's ties to the Russian Orthodox Church.
And I wish you all a very Merry Christmas, very happy.
Right, well, it's Santa's busiest day of the year, and let's see whether he's going to have a tough time getting down the chimneys here in Korea by checking on the weather conditions today with our Lee Ji-yeon, who's standing by the weather center. Good afternoon to you, Ji-yeon.
Well, good afternoon, Mark and Yusun. Well, tomorrow is Christmas Day, and I think Christmas trees add to the holiday spirit. And I wonder if you guys know where the largest Christmas tree in Korea is.
Well, I thought I heard the biggest Christmas tree in the world was in Italy, but I'm not sure about the biggest tree here in Korea.
Well, you're right about the country, but the tree in Italy isn't really a tree at all. And the largest tree here in Korea isn't a tree either. This tree is in Boseong County in Jeollanam-do, which is famous for its green tea fields. And at this time of year, they put lights on the fields in the shape of a giant Christmas tree with lots of other light sculptures, and it's looking absolutely fabulous. And if you're planning to spend some time outdoors with your loved ones today, you won't have to worry about the weather. The whole nation will enjoy an unseasonably mild Christmas Eve under plenty of sunshine across the nation. But some parts of East Coast might see a few flurries during the day, and tomorrow will be even milder. So a white Christmas is highly unlikely, and things will get noticeably cooler after a bit of rain scheduled to arrive on Thursday. So enjoy the mild weather condition while it's here. With that, it mind, here are the readings for today. Now, the high in Seoul this afternoon will get up to 5 degrees Celsius, and Daegu and Gwangju will see a high of 7, and Busan will climb up to 10 under lots of sunshine. Now, let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju should see a high of 10 in the afternoon. Daejeon and Dokdo will peak at 6 and 2, and there's another freezing day in store for Mount Kumgang at -3. Now, that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. That's all for me today. Hope you have a wonderful Christmas Eve, and back to Mark and Yusan in the studio.
Thank you very much, Jiyeon. You have a wonderful Christmas Eve too, and to all our viewers, have a very Merry Christmas. And those are the stories that we're following at this hour.
Well, join us again tomorrow on Christmas Day right here on NEWSLINE at noon.